Hi, I'm Doxie Keller, and we're just going to have a lot of fun today. We're starting with a product that's fairly new, and it's called Ink Effects. We paint on paper, then we iron the image onto, the product I like very best is 100% polyester. It'll make great scarves. I've also done it on white shirts, and just have a great time. So I think we'll get started. And the first thing we want to do is I want to introduce you to the bottles. The bottles are like, well, why would I pick up the worst one? Here's the bottle, and this is our light green. And on the top of the bottle, you will see a dot. That's sort of like the color that's in the bottle. But we're going to show you how it really looks when you iron it, because it's beautiful, it's transparent, looks just terrific. We have 12 colors. This product is made by DecoArt. And we're going to start by doing a color wheel. It doesn't have to be put down as a wheel. It could just be put down as splotches. So first step is to paint on paper. And you see we have yellow. And remember, when you do this, it's going to be, you flip it over, it's going to be a reverse image. So my color wheel is actually going the opposite way, because I flip it over, and when I iron it, you see the true colors, and this is how they look. Starting here with yellow, and in the bottle, yellow looks like orange. And it's just, you must do this, because then that makes you an expert. So we'll start with that. You don't always have to use polyesters. You can use muslin. And when you use muslin, we have a product we call base coat, and you just spray it. It's in a spray bottle. Looks like this. It's clear. And you just spray it on. That coats the muslin, and then you get a wonderful transfer. And when we hold these up, you can see how very close it transfers. And the ink transfers with heat. You set your iron at the very hottest setting. And if you're using polyester and it might melt, then cover it with paper, clean paper, of course. And if you want to be conservative, perhaps you're working with children, you have a small budget, go down to your local newspaper, and they will have ends off their presses, and you can buy a big roll for $2 or $3, and that can cover up and do the things that you need to do. But we're not going to paint on newsprint. We're going to paint on copy paper. Just whatever you use in your computer printer works fine. We used to call those things mimeographs, but you get the idea. It's just plain ordinary paper. And I'm going to show you how to draw, well, anyone can do squares. And instead of painting all these 12 colors, I'm just going to paint 3 or 4 for you. I'm just going to put some squares down. It doesn't even matter. They could be triangles. They could be whatever you want. They could be circles, but squares are much easier. And I'm going to get a brush, and I use low Cornell brushes, and they have a nylon brush, and that nylon brush is a real workhorse. It just doesn't wear out. It keeps on going, kind of like the energetic bunny. And I'm going to pour. I'm going to start with yellow, and I'm just going to pour it, or if I'm really stingy, I can lift it out with a palette knife and put out about a dime size amount of color. And then, of course, you know what you have to do after each color. And I did something extra. The dot is on here. Sometimes the dots match. Sometimes they're not quite the same. I just wrote on these lids the color. It's got the yellow dot, and it's got printed yellow on it. The big problem comes, the bottles don't have the color listed on them. So don't mix up the lids. And then I'm going to put out a little bit of orange and a little bit of red. And the red, I will tell you right now, looks almost like the pink when it's in the bottle. But you saw when I held that up that we had a beautiful shade of pink. So that's why it's essential for you to get acquainted with these colors. They look so different when they're ironed. And I can tell you right now that any color that you use will be beautiful. You just got to get the right combinations. If you don't know how to choose colors, go look at wallpaper. Go look at catalogs. Go look at magazines. Those are color experts. They put marvelous colors together. If you're a decorative painter, one of the best color people we have is Maureen McNaughton. And Maureen does beautiful color combinations. So look at some of the magazines you already have. There are people out there who know twice as much as I do, and they can help you, but there are helps everywhere. Okay, so I've got the wide brush. It's going to pretty much fit in the square. So here we go with yellow. And to me, this actually looks more like orange. And I'm going to put down 2 coats. Then I'm going to wipe it out and rinse it out because I don't want to contaminate the next color I do with the previous color. Now just for fun, we're going to do red. And these color splotches would have to dry 45 minutes. You might hurry it up half as much time if you dried them with a hair dryer. Okay, I've got a clean brush, and here's our third color. I think this was green. And that's all there is to it. If you want to get a little more ink on, give it just a minute to dry and put it down a second layer. So you can do all kinds of things. And we're just learning how to use these, many of us. So there's some tricks that I'll share with you down at the end of the day, and try them. It's just a great deal of fun. You don't have to start out painting on a expensive scarf. You can make your own scarf. You can buy yard goods. Maybe you got an old shirt. I often go to Goodwill or charity shops, and you can buy men's white shirts, which are very inexpensive, a couple of dollars. You can have 30 or 40 at that price. So be creative. That's the idea. Okay, so we have our color chart started, and when this dries, we could iron it on, and we'd know for sure what the yellow, the red, and the green look like. And of course, my recommendation is to buy the 12 colors. The 12 colors, then you have everything you need. We do not have a white, but what I really like is to use the white of the fabric to show things. So I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to paint for you on a piece of just regular copy paper. And I'm going to gather this up a little bit, and I'm going to need yellow. I should put out the right colors for this. That would have been smart. Anyway, I'm going to put out a little more yellow. And again, you don't want to contaminate your colors. They do mix, but it's best to keep the patches out. If you want, you can pour this out if you're the impatient type. And my boss would like that because you will probably put out more than you need. Anyway, we're going to do a sunflower. And the sunflower would have 3 colors. I'm going to use yellow, orange, and red. There's the orange as it looks in the bottle. And again, clean the palette knife, rinse it, and once you start painting, you don't have to be so careful about not contaminating because you can mix them. And I'm going to just show you how I start, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint on a fan. And this is a little pocket fan. See how it tucks nicely in this pocket? You can paint on the pocket. You can do that. And what's fun about these are once you pull them out, here they are, we're all folded up, and you get a great little fan. And it's 100% nylon. Those are sold by Darla Foreman, who runs her website, and that's called turtlehollowartists.com. And maybe we'll have that up in print so you'll see it. Okay, fans. And let me, while we're here, let me show you. It's a mystery how to make these work. Put one hand on top and one on the bottom. And then you just do kind of a double twist. And it goes right back. Coax it a little bit, it goes right back in the pocket. And of course, it's a whole lot more fun when we paint it on them. So we're going to paint on paper now. And then we're going to go. And it's important to be sure, we'll undo this again, kind of stay within the margins, because this is a piece of wire covered with bias tape. And if we paint clear out to the edges, then we can't iron the whole design. So I'm going to just draw a circle, a small circle, and then I'm going to give it a center. These are my boundaries. Then I'm just going to do petals. And you start east, north, south, and west. Then you fill in between. And some of you might recognize this as stroke work, but you don't have to do stroke work. I'll show you both ways. Stroke work's fun and fast. I'm going to load the brush with yellow, and then I'm going to drag it into the orange. So I've loaded two colors in my brush. I'm going to lay the brush down, press, and just pull out to a point. And that could be a little bigger. I can drag it out. It didn't quite fill my circle, so I'm just going to put in a little more and go up. Easy. Sometimes you can get two strokes out of one loading. You got to press while you load the paint. Come over and get dark in the other. Start at the center and pull out. Now, for those of you who don't know how to do strokes, you can learn. It's very easy. I'm just going to paint yellow only on a petal. I'm just going to fill it in. And we're going to outline this so it isn't going to matter. So I have just a yellow petal. Watch that one more time. I'm going to do it right next to it. And you saw I kind of used a stroke, but I didn't mean to. And now I'm going to just wipe the yellow, pick up the orange. And the orange looks kind of brownish. It doesn't look like orange out of the bottle. But when we iron it, it will. And I can just push down there. I don't even have to make that a real, could just put a splotch of it on. It'll still be beautiful. So there we have two methods, two ways to paint on paper. I'm just going to finish this out so that you can see the end result. And then I think maybe we'll do some ironing. I bet some of you don't even have an iron. All of us older folks have irons. But I know people that had this iron on Boy Scout badges, and the woman said, I don't have an iron. So we had her come over to our house and we loaned her an iron. And here's another way to get the paint out. Then you only have the bottle to be sure you put the lid back on. It does two things. It keeps from you mixing up things. And then it also gives you don't have to clean the palette knife. So here we go, and I'm going to do a stroke because that just is easy and quick. And these make wonderful gifts. Sometimes your air conditioning fails. There we are. That's that. And we might just put a little bit of yellow in there, and it's quite pale when it gets transferred. And I need a brown center, so that's what I'm going to get my brown out here. Well, guess what? I don't have the brown, so I'll make it black. Oh, I see brown. There we are. And this is really hard, so watch carefully. I'm going to put out a little touch of black, just a bit, because black and brown together make a dark brown. Be sure you put the lids back on. And here's our brown. And I might use a little more of that. The only risk you run pouring this out is that you sometimes make a mess on the edge. So if you just wipe it off, then your bottle will open the next time. I do know sometimes people who do these kind of things take Vaseline around that outside edge, and that keeps the paint from sticking. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to tap it on. And remember, there's another step, which we're going to do the outlining, and we're not going to do brushes, outlines, although many of you know how to do that. I'm going to leave some of the light in there. Then I'm going back, and just on the edge, I'm going to pick up a little bit of black. I'm just going to tap it in and blend it around the outside edge. So there you have the sunflower. How you like that? Isn't that fun? And it's easy to do. And we're going to get our fan out. We're going to get rid of this one. Now, if I can only find the one I had dry, we'll be in business. I found my problem. I found my problem child sunflower. It's all dry. I had to let it dry 45 minutes. Well, you don't want to wait 45 minutes. So now we're going to iron. And remember, I have to pick up the iron over here. We've had it heating. And it's on the hottest setting, which generally is cotton or linen. And I have a piece of plain copy paper. I'm just going to lay it down on the iron. And what that's going to do is protect my ironing board cover. Then I'm going to put the pattern down. And remember, this is dried 45 minutes. It might depend on your humidity. Maybe it'll take longer, but I don't think so. So I'm going to put that down, and I have a couple of edges of the nylon that's showing here. And just to be safe, I'm going to take another piece of copy paper, and this happens to be big copy paper, which is, you know, it covers things much nicer. So I'm just going to put that down, and I guess I better look once more because it's important that I get it, well, I guess most people would like it in the center. And in order to keep that from moving, I'm just going to take a pin, just a sewing pin, and just pin it in a couple areas. Now I could look through this way and I can see if that's in the middle. Doesn't seem to be exactly in the middle. So remember, you can turn it over and peek, because the nylon will actually show through. Remember, this is that little pocket fan. And I'm going to pin it in two places. And it might not be so bad to have a double image, but then again, you might be unhappy with it. So now again, paper on the bottom, pattern, fan, pattern, and more paper. And that's going to, nylon doesn't probably need a cotton setting. It probably needs a nylon setting. Here we go. And this little travel iron is wonderful. And some people think they got to keep it moving. And you know, this is kind of like watching paint dry, so it's not real interesting. But when you think you've gotten that done, pick up just the edge of your pattern. Well, guess what? It's transferring. I can use a little bit more heat. I tend to hold it kind of in one place, and then I've got to go around the whole fan. And you can see how this is so much fun, because this image will transfer about 3 times. So if I wanted to have 3 people for dinner, we could have this on napkins. You can find polyester napkins. I don't think nylon would work very well. If you're going to put it on nylon, or if you're going to put it on something besides a fan, then you're going to have to base coat that fabric. Remember, we talked about base coating or spritzing. And now I want to check again. I'm just going to take this away because I think I can be careful now. And I just want to peek at the edges, make sure it's transferred. And I haven't transferred very much over here, so I'm going to iron again. Just takes time. You can't rush it. And I'll have to peek again. As I said, this is kind of like watching paint dry. But when you get a beautiful design, you're going to be real happy that you've done that. And see, I've got half of it ironed on, so I'm going to hold here and I'm going to continue ironing. The ironing is as important, even though it's not nearly as much fun. And you just have to be patient because it really will transfer. And when you transfer it a second time, you iron longer. I think that's a fairly simple idea. And now we'll look again. And we're a little shy over here, so more ironing. And I think you get the idea. Just to make sure, we'll give it another quick touch. So what we're doing is ink effects. We're painting on paper, transferring the design from paper to fabric. This that I'm ironing on is the 100% nylon. Transfers beautifully. And there we go, and you'll see even some spatters. I'm going to iron once more right over here. That could be because maybe I didn't get quite enough paint. And if so, it isn't going to make a lot of difference because we're going to outline. And we're going to outline with an Identa pen. So there we are. Shall we take it off? And then we'll see what happens. I'm pulling the pins out, of course, and saving them. There we go. It's a little pale in a couple of places, but I can do something to fix that if you want me to. And you can make this. First thing I'm going to do, though, is outline a couple of these petals. And then you will see how easy it can be fixed. This Identa pen is wonderful. It has two size tips, a skinny one and a broader one. And I kind of go with the skinny one. And in order to not be, we're not being perfect here, I can do a double outline. If you want to have a wider one, let's try that and see if we like that one better. That one certainly shows up better. And for a beginner, this wiggly line is really great. You don't have to worry that it isn't perfect. And anytime you're working with beginners or people that are inexperienced, it's very easy just to do wiggly lines, and then you don't have to be perfect. Here, we can put some nice sprigs out. Looks really neat. And I told you that I could make these colors brighter. So let's move our ironing board away. Try not to burn the tables or something. And then if I had freezer paper, I would tuck some freezer paper in there. And here's my paint. So I can come in and I can paint directly on this fan. And people say, oh, really? It doesn't say that in the directions. That's right. That's where creative people figure out that they can do other things. It's very important in the beginning that you know which one of these colors is yellow. And I've had time to practice, so I know which one's yellow. So I'm just going to tuck that yellow in there. Remember, it looks much darker when I'm painting directly. And if this brush is kind of intimidating for you, use a smaller flat brush. If you don't know about brushes, go to one of your hobby or paint stores and they can help you. They have smaller flat brushes, they have round brushes, liner brushes, and brushes would be something for another day. But you can just work on it. And here I'm going to pick up, in a minute, I'm going to tuck the yellow. I always start with the lightest color first. And while that's damp, I pick up the orange. And I'm just going to put that orange down and kind of blend it. I can even use my finger. And here we go over here. And then what are we going to do? We're going to let that dry, and then we're going to paint it. I don't mean that. We're painting now. I mean we're going to heat set it. So here we go, just tucking that extra color in. And later on I'm going to show you a butterfly that has been painted and enhanced with darker colors. And it's just fun for decorative painters. Sometimes they want to do a little more shading and highlighting, and this is one way that we can make them their happiest, is to tuck in a little color later. You could even put in, well, I don't have any red there, so that's it. And I can kind of tuck that along. I'm going to let that dry, and maybe before the program's over, what would we do? We'd have paper on the bottom, we'd have paper on the top, and we would iron it. Simple idea. So that's sunflowers. Since I'm from Kansas, I'm a big fan of sunflowers. And I don't think we need to. So it's like a sandwich with a fan in the middle. Paper, fan, painted, enhanced with color on top, and then paper on the bottom to keep your ironing board clean. Okay, and what else shall we do? This is another design I did on the fan, and I painted this little pocket as well. And I did it with things, you don't have to be an expert to do any of this. I simply dipped in I did tuck freezer paper in there, and the freezer paper keeps the paint from going through. So that's what I did, and all I did was fill it with the paint. I dipped two edges in, one in yellow, one in orange. I just put it down and scooted it around. And you get the simplest idea. And you can come in and this is a kind of a different version of the sunflower. And this was ironed on to the nylon. And for its pocket, you know, say you're making 100 of these for your 100 friends. Why, what you need to do is figure out something simple for some of them. Maybe you're doing it for bridge favors or party favors. People would love getting these. So we're gonna just outline with our big Adena pen. Again, it can be a double line. If you want some kind of a different idea, you can do a spiral. And when you start looking around, you'll see all of these designs on carpets. They're everywhere. And here, this is kind of uninteresting up here, so I can just come around and do more than one line. And it doesn't really matter if they're not perfect. And this is dried, remember, about 45 minutes after it was ironed. And then it's very easy. I wonder if you need to see how to fold that fan up one more time. Would you like to see that? Here you could do cross-hatching, this is called. Kind of like playing tic-tac-toe. I'm going to show you that one more time. One hand underneath. I think I do it this way. One hand on top and one underneath. Then we just twist it, do a double fold, and it tucks in. And believe it or not, our camera gal, our expert, said she has big screens which controls the light. And she knew how to do this. Isn't that fabulous? There we are, a nice gift or a favor for some kind of a party. So now the next thing, we've done the color wheel, we've done two kinds of painting, and I think I'll show you another kind of a flower. And you remember I told you in the beginning, I like to allow some of the white to show. And to me, it makes sense to do that. And here's one of these pieces that I've done on paper. And this is what I'm going to try to duplicate for you. Very simple, very simple. But if you need a guideline, then put a center circle in, I'm just going to make that because I want to paint that whole ring around there. And this would be filled in right here with the paint. Then I reach out, I skip some of the white. And this is something that we could be doing, say, on a scarf. It could be on a shirt. Again, the designs do not have to be really complicated. And all a leaf is a half circle, and then you put a point on it. So anybody can draw a circle. Doesn't have to be a great circle. If you want to be perfect, use a bottle, paint bottle. But you can do it like that. So just the idea of getting some of that color in. And we have to change our paint palette out. I'm going to add some orange. No, I don't mean that. I'm going to add some red. Remember, I've got the red marked on the label. We have a red dot. I'm just going to pour it out. And just be careful that you don't make too much of a glob. I happen to know I need quite a bit of red, so I'm going to put it out. And you could even have some blue out because blue and red make purple, so that's very nice. And again, I've labeled my pieces. And you could have a dark center, which is what this one is. And on this one, I believe I used black, so why don't I do that instead of blue? And the black will show up very well in our picture. Here it is. I'm just going to, I have a little out, but I'm going to put a little more out. Again, I'm trying to not be wasteful and hope that that's enough. The black is super strong, so you want to be really careful not to overpower the red color because we want this to be a red flower. So here's our red. I'm going to pick up a little bit of black, and I'm going to just kind of tuck that in the middle. I guess if you wanted to, you could feel like this was a rose looking down. There may, by the time it's fall, when you'll be reading this, there may be still some beautiful roses in your garden. If there are, go out and take a look. Stand right over them and you will see that that has beautiful spiral, and that's what we're painting, is a spiral. You could make, instead of black, you could use a blue, then you'd have a purple. And see, that anyone can do this. This is not science. If you want to get really crazy, you can do beautiful things with roses. But I always like working with beginners. And it's fun when they finally see, oh my gosh, look, I painted that. And it can be a lifetime hobby. And of course, in our magazine, we have all kinds of beautiful things. Some easy, some hard. Anyway, we're going to let some of the white show through. And remember, we're going to iron this when this is dry. It has to dry at least 45 minutes. And we can put on more than one layer of paint. And I've got some green leaves on here that I might want to paint. And we've got 2 shades of green in this collection, a light green and a dark green, and then we have a turquoise. And it's fun to use all of those, but today we're just going to keep it simple. I'm going to get out the regular green. I think I have light green out. The colors are really, by looking at the color dots, you can pretty much figure out what you got. But they look so different. And see, I think what I really have gotten out is the light green, and I think the other one is, hopefully it's our dark green. We'll just have to play and see. I'm filling the brush with the light green. Sometimes if you drag it out like that on a piece of white paper plate, you can see that how transparent it is. And now I'm going to pick up the dark, which I think is dark. There we go, dark green. So we'll pick up both colors, the light first and then the dark. And we're just going to fill in this leaf by pressing on the brush and kind of come to a point. And if you just don't know how to do strokes, I love strokes because you can paint so much faster. Just fill the whole thing in with one color. Just pat it in there. Doesn't matter if it isn't perfect. And I'm going to give that just a second or two to dry. Then I'm going to put a second coat on, second layer. And again, it doesn't matter if it isn't perfect. You see, you could just lay that brush down and come to a point. That takes a little practice, so we won't worry with that today. But you could find yourself a painting teacher, either online, or you can find yourself a shop that has real life teacher. But online classes are terrific. And sometime in the near future, we're going to be doing online classes. So watch for that. And I'm putting on the dark green. And that's really all there is to it. Red and green also make a dark color. So you could even put touches of green in this for just a little variety. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Could kind of sneak out over the edges. And that's it. Let that dry 45 minutes and then we'll iron it. I'm going to get rid of this painted piece that I did, and then I have one here that is has been drying. That's this one. And I'm going to show you how to make a scarf. And the scarves, you know, are a big fashion item right now. And I suspect they'll stay. I had a friend who went to Europe. She said everybody is wearing a scarf. So maybe you need to get going with scarves. This is polyester, nice and flimsy, wonderful. And I just snipped one edge. And I got this scarf material. It's 100% polyester. It comes from the sewing stores like Joann's Fabric, Hobby Lobby. And the best way to get a straight edge is just to tear it. Cut it, it won't be straight. And this is so much easier and so much quicker. And when we get through, we have this. We got to get our ironing board back because I painted this on the copy paper. And this is, I think these are colors of yellow and oranges. And we have something later to show you. I'll just reach over here and get the ironing board. And then I'm going to pick up my painted copy paper. I'm going to pick up the paper that is going to cover. I'm going to put the paper down. Remember, that's going to keep my ironing board from getting painted. Trust me, mine at home is painted. I kind of like it, but it could get you in trouble because it could transfer to your real ironing, if any of you real iron anymore. And this scarf fabric is about 58 inches wide. And I'm probably just going to start down a little bit in case somebody wants to tie a knot in their scarf. You must get it so it isn't wrinkly. And I'm just going to put this down. I don't even care if it's perfect. I'm one of those that doesn't really care. And remember I told you put paper over it so we don't melt the polyester. That's just a protection. And I should have pinned that, but I'm going to wing it. I would recommend that you pin that to the scarf. Because if I pick it up and I don't get it back in the same place, you might have a double image. But then again, a double image might be very exciting. If you've looked at scarves very carefully, you'll see that they come in all kinds of exciting, bright colors. Sometimes there are themes. Think of having a scarf for your college football games. That would be terrific. Think what you could do with the election. You could do all kinds of wonderful things. And this can be transferred onto men's white shirts. I'm going to take a peek here and see exactly if the image is transferred. Now I'm picking up the polyester, and I should have really, it's quite light yet, so I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to let that go right back down, and right now I'm going to pin it. Should have done that in the beginning, but we can't all be perfect. So, and I know where that polyester is, and I'm going to stay within those margins. I'm just going to work straight on the pattern without the extra paper, just because it'll get hotter and it'll transfer better. I'm moving the iron around left and right. Remember, you're going to do a color. You're going to buy all these colors, or at least the ones that are your favorites, and you're going to make your color swatches, and I'd suggest you transfer them to either polyester, since you're going to buy a yard of that polyester goods. You can make out of, what, 36 inches, you could make, what, 4 9-inch scarves? Somebody help me. 9 times, did I get it right? 4 times 9 is not, still have to put a little bit more color on. So it takes more ironing. Just can't rush this. And then if I wanted to repeat this, I could have this flower, or I could paint another flower, and I could just pile one of these on the top of the edges and turn it a different direction. And you could have a fun scarf that you only painted once. And you can do images about 3 times max. And remember, the best thing to work on is either a synthetic. If you do other than a synthetic, then what you have to do is spray it with our fixative, or our base coat it's called. That would be for muslin, or it'd be for rayon, or it might be for bamboo silk. There's a lot of new things out there, and it's hard to keep up with all the new things. But there are places, if you go to any of the painting conventions, you'll find all kinds of wonderful new things, and don't have to depend on just one resource, which would be your shop. We do hope that you're patronizing your stores, because that helps those folks stay in business, and they are creative and have great ideas and classes. And see here where it isn't ironed, I could take the flower and turn it a different direction and put it on there. Anyone have questions? If you do, go to the DecoArt website, go to Darla Foreman's Turtle Hollow website, and I'm just going to take this off, and then you can see what's happening. Whoops, forgot to unpin it. And there we are, and we have some other images to show you, and you see that's a nice image there. We could put this image over it and put it like that, and it will come over, and you'd have multiple flowers to do. So that's all there is to it. You can do multiple things. You can do all kinds of wonderful things. And thank you very much for coming with us. I'd like to show you one more thing, and that is we use purples and reds, blues here, and we iron just exactly like I told you, but we use different colors. And this is a scarf, and you can have a rolled edge put on there. You could actually hem it if you're a good seamstress on a fancy sewing machine. And here I didn't iron up here, so I could lay this different flower right on top. So you have a wonderful scarf. And up here you'll see another scarf. Simple ideas, but beautiful colors. The shirt is done with DecoArt So Soft fabrics. You can also see things for Darla Foreman's website on there. So join us again sometime. Thank you very much for watching.